Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our Tanya class. Last week we began chapter 15 because some of you weren't here last week. So we'll begin the chapter again. It's not a long chapter, and we'll try to finish it today. So in the last chapters, chapter 12, 13, 14, the Alter Rebbe discussed in great detail the rank of the Beinoni. What exactly is this intermediary level known as the Beinoni? And he said that the Beinoni is somewhere in between the tzaddik and the rasha. The rasha is the tzaddik is the person who not only has he complete control of his behavior, of his thought, speech, and action, which he calls the garments of the soul, but his soul, his very soul itself, the intellect and his emotions, his perceptions, his feelings, are also 100% in line, in sync with Hashem, with God's will and with God's program, so to say. He sees things the way God sees things, feels things the way God feels. The Rasha is on the exact opposite of that. Not only is his thought, speech, and action, his behavior not in line with Hashem. Not only is his very soul not in line with Hashem, his perceptions, his emotions, his intellect, but his behavior is also sometimes, depending on the level of this Rasha, some people less often, some people more often, would they even violate Hashem's will, would they even struggle with the behavior aspect, and that too is not in line with Hashem. Sometimes they sin. The Beinoni is in between. His outer shell, his outer garments, the thought, speech, and action is always in line with Hashem, what Hashem wants. He never lets his Yetzer Hara or his animalistic passions, temptations, drives get the better side of him, but his temptations are still there. His soul, his inner workings are still not transformed and overturned to be in line with what God wants. That clear? And then he said, talked about the fact that the Beinoni has that Hashem created us by nature. Our mind has supremacy over our hearts, and if the Beinoni wants, he can, and that's why we're able to. That's why the Beinoni has the ability, the power to overcome the temptations of the heart, because of his head, his mind, which is the place of the godly soul, is in the mind. It's stronger. Simply, the mind is stronger than the heart, by nature. Of course, that's if your mind is in the right place. If your mind is not either in the right place, then that's a problem. Which is the story by most Rishonim, by the most sinful people. Their mind is not a mind. The mind is also more of a heart than a mind. We discussed this very at length a couple of weeks ago. So now in chapter 15, he's going to conclude this idea of what is the rank of the Beinoni. And he talks about the fact that there are two levels within the Beinoni itself. And we discussed this last week. He's going to say that in the Beinoni itself, there's a Beinoni that is considered someone who is a servant of God, who serves God, and a Beinoni that is not considered is someone who serves him not. He's not considered, he's a Beinoni, he's always doing what Hashem wants, but he's not considered someone who serves Hashem. Why is that? So let's see it in the Alter Rebbe's words. In chapter 15, page 63, in the bilingual edition. With the above in mind, we may now understand the text. In the Pasuk in Malachi, there's a Pasuk in the Prophet, the book of Malachi, where he says, "Then shall ye again discern between the righteous man and the wicked man, between him that serving God and him that serves him not." In this Pasuk, when you read it at face value, it seems that there's a redundancy here. He said, you'll see the difference between the righteous, the tzaddik, and the rasha, and between the one that serves God and the one that serves him not. The truth is, when you think about this, it seems that these are two, this is redundant. This is a double expression. The tzaddik is the person who serves God, and the rasha is the person who serves him not. Why does he have to say, you'll see the difference between the tzaddik and the rasha, and the one who serves him and serves him not? Aren't they synonymous? The tzaddik is the one that serves, and the rasha is the one that doesn't serve, right? So why the double expression? And he explains. Because really what he's going to say is that he's talking about 4 different levels. There's the tzaddik, there's the rasha, and then in between there's 2 levels of beinoni, one that serves him and one that serves him not. In other words, the Eved Hashem, or the non-Eved Hashem, is in the rank of the beinoni itself. Let's see it. The difference between one who serves God and a righteous man is that one who is serving Eved God in the present tense is the active present. Is one who is in the active present is one who is engaged in active service, namely the struggle against his evil nature and an effort to gain mastery over it, to banish it from the small city. That it should not vest itself in the organs of the body. Verily, it entails much effort and toil to wage constant war with it. This is the Beinoni. What he's saying over here is like this. I'll explain this first orally, and then we'll learn it inside. For example, when you talk about a person that's a chacham, a person that's a wise man, yeah? A person that's a wise man, if you can talk a person that's wise, it's not someone that's becoming wise. He's now learning to become wise, or a king. Someone that's a king. You say a president, or let's talk about a president. There's a candidate, and then there's the president himself. When you're a candidate, when you're running to be president, you can't call him the president. You can call him a candidate, but he's not a president yet. A king, when could you consider him a king or a president? When he's finally elected, then he's a president. Someone that's actively working to become a president, you can't call him a president. The same thing over here. There's an Eved Hashem, and there's an Eved Hashem. There's a servant of a God, and there's a person who is serving God. The tzaddik is considered an Eved Hashem. He's already reached the level where he can be considered a person who is now, he's already in the past tense. He became an Eved because he overpowered his nature, his natural tendencies, his animalistic selves, and he's overpowered it, and he turned it around, transformed it to become one with Hashem. He has reached that point. But someone that's engaged in the process of fighting his battle, battling his negative, and overcoming in a new battle the next morning or 5 minutes later, and he's constantly struggling, that's the person who you can consider, that's the Eved Hashem. He's not yet an Eved. He didn't reach yet that level where he's mastered and he became in the as a noun. It's not yet. He's not there yet. He's in the process of struggling to overcome, but he didn't overcome yet. So he's in the present tense. He's called an Eved Hashem, someone who is serving, not someone who's already a servant. We think always someone that's serving God, you consider him a servant, but not. Here he's dividing between the two. There's someone that's in the middle of the process, and there's someone that has mastered the process and has become an Eved Hashem. He's titled an Eved, like a king. He ran for office, and the election day came, and he was elected, he became the president. That's when you can call him a melech, a king or a president. But not when he's running. The Beinoni is running to become an Eved Hashem. He's not there yet. The Tzaddik became an Eved. So the Eved, so when the Pasuk says, you will see the difference between an Eved Hashem, someone who serves, not a servant, but someone who serves. You understand the difference, right? The servant is the Tzaddik. The one who serves is the Beinoni, because he's still in the middle of the process. Now, within that middle of the process, there's a one that's considered an Eved, someone who's serving, and someone who's serving him not. You'll see soon who's this Beinoni that serves him not. Why is he not considered someone who serves Hashem? A person that does only mitzvahs, he doesn't do anything against Hashem's will, is still not an Eved. Why not? We'll see in a minute why. But at first we want to distinguish between the Eved and the Eved. Atamivin, you understand? Let's see in the Alter Rebbe's words. The difference between one, we're on the left column, the bottom paragraph. The difference between one who is serving God and a righteous man, the tzaddik, because the one who's serving God is not the tzaddik. In the pasuk it says there's a tzaddik and then there's an oived. What's the difference between the one who's serving God and the righteous man? Is that one who is serving oived, God, is in the active present, is one who is engaged in active service. Namely, what's active service? The struggle against his evil nature and an effort to gain mastery over it and to banish it from the small city. That it should not vest itself in the organs of the body. Who is this? That's the Beinoni. Verily, it entails much effort. Alter Rebbe, he concedes it's a difficult war. It's not an easy job. Verily, it entails much effort and toil to wage constant war with it. This is the Beinoni. The tzaddik, however, is designated servant eved of God. He's already a servant, which is a title already earned, as the title sage or king is bestowed on one who has already become a sage or king, not someone who's trying to become a sage or a king. So is this person, the tzaddik, who has already effected and completely accomplished this task of waging war against the evil in him, with the result that he has expelled it, and it has disappeared, which is the level of the tzaddik, because the tzaddik actually expels his evil. He has reached a level where he no longer has to deal with an evil nature. And his heart has become void within him. He no longer has the evil temptation. That's an Eved Hashem. He has reached that level. But someone who's engaged in the battle, that's an Eved. Here's a distinction. Now he goes and continues. We did this last week, if you remember. In the category of Beinoni, there's also a one who serves. Are also to be found two gradations, with one who is serving God and one who's serving him, who serves him not. Now you may ask, why is he? How could there be a Beinoni that is not considered someone who serves him? He's doing everything right. Why is he not considered he's not only not an Eved, he's not even an Eved. Why? No battle? He doesn't have to wage war? We'll see now. Yet the latter is not wicked, for never in his life did he commit even a minor transgression, and moreover he fulfilled all the commandments which were possible for him to fulfill, including the study of the Torah, which balances everything else. His mouth never ceasing from study. So a person like that, where he never misses a moment to learn Torah, he never misses an opportunity to do a mitzvah, how can you say that he is a person who serves him not? What kind of Beinoni is that? So he explains. The reason he is referred as one who serves him not is that he does not wage any battle against his evil disposition in order to vanquish it, by means of the divine light that irradiates the divine soul, whose abode is in the brain, which predominates over the heart, as explained above.
You're talking about
he is the, huh?
You're talking about the same person that you mentioned last lesson, that he just you don't care about nothing.
Yeah, that's what you're going to do. We're going over it again, just quickly. He's going to describe over here a Beinoni, that although he's a Beinoni, he never does anything wrong, and he always does what he has to do. But he's not considered someone who serves. Because Alter Rebbe reserves the title of Oved Hashem, someone who serves, someone that's engaged in active battle. And he's going to describe over here an individual, a type of Beinoni that doesn't have to battle his evil nature. He's not engaged in the battle. Why so? There are certain people that are born with a tendency to be studious, assiduous. They have cold, frigid nature. They're not drawn after pleasures of this world, pleasures of the flesh. They don't have those. They're not really. They're cold in that sense. He calls it a morashcheda. The gal is the black. We spoke about this last week. The way his disposition, there's a mora aduma, there's a mora lovana, it's something to do with the gallbladder. The bladder is black or red or white. It changes the nature of the person. Now, how this is physiologically, I'm not sure exactly. I don't know what a gal looks like. But the point is that there is in the human nature different types. And some people are born with that fired up, passionate tendencies. And some people are just cold-blooded. They just don't have, they're frigid natured. They don't have any major temptations for much of anything. They're bookworms. They're hermits. They're like the type of people that nothing the physical world doesn't talk to them. It doesn't impress them. They're not drawn to it. They have no excitement out of that. Their excitement comes from reading another novel, another book, another philosopher, a book on philosophy. That's their world. Great intellects, for example, sometimes they offer them to engage in some pleasures of the moment, and they just have no interest. And there's some people like that. So this is a person who, for him, learning is not a struggle. He's drawn to it. That's what he wants to do. That's his nature. Just like you like to eat good food and you like to have good entertainment. To him, entertainment is learning, is studying. We'll talk in a minute what he studies. But study and the pursuit of higher ideas of mind, that's his passion. That's what he likes. He doesn't have any temptations outside of that. So when a person like that learns, is he struggling? Is this a struggle for him? You can consider him an avid. He's actively involved in some kind of battle that he has to overcome. He doesn't have to overcome anything. Because that's his natural disposition. And you have such people. Now you can say, then why is he learning Torah and not Aristotelian in philosophy? So he says, you're right. To get him to divert his attention from secular philosophy to godly Torah, to godly wisdom, for that all he needs is to remind himself that he's Jewish. I'm Jewish, okay, so I have to do it. I should be drawn to Torah, not to Aristotle and to Shakespeare and other things like that. But that's not a battle. For that alone, he has to just awake and remind himself that he has a love for Hashem by the virtue of him being Jewish, by the fact that he's Jewish. It's not a battle. That's not considered an avid. Let's see. Let's read it in Alter Rebbe's words. At that triangle, we'll go a few lines first, earlier. In the category of Beinoni, there are also to be found two gradations to it, one who is serving God and one who serves him not. Yet the latter is not wicked. For never in his life, even the one who serves him not is not considered a rasha, a wicked. For never in his life did he commit even a minor transgression. And moreover, he fulfilled all the commandments which were possible for him to fulfill, including the study of the Torah, which balances everything else, his mouth never ceasing from study. The reason he is referred to as one who serves him not is that he does not wage any battle against his evil disposition in order to vanquish it by means of the divine light that irradiates the divine soul. If you remember in chapter 12 and 13, Alter Rebbe explained that the Beinoni needs a little assistance from God. When he has a battle between the godly and the animal soul, so the godly soul is in the head, right, is in the brain, and the animalistic drives and passions are in the heart. And since the brain is a little stronger than the heart, so the brain overpowers the heart, right? But he explained that in chapter 13 he mentioned that the Beinoni also needs a little assistance from God. That this is the godly light that irradiates his mind, where the neshama is, he needs a little assistance. So I explained, if you remember then, that Alter Rebbe over there is referring to a Beinoni that doesn't have that didn't daven. There's different types. So I don't want to go over that again. But the point is that the Beinoni needs to have the assistance of God. Okay, he needs a little help to get him over the hump, so to say. So he said he doesn't need this. Again, we'll read from the reason. You see that? That's 8 lines from the bottom. The reason he is referred to as one who serves him not is that he does not wage any battle against his evil disposition in order to vanquish it by means of the divine light that irradiates the divine soul, whose abode is in the brain, which predominates over the heart, as explained above. He doesn't need this. Why? He does no battle. Why? Because his disposition does not confront him at all in any attempt to distract him from study and prayer. And he is consequently never obliged to wage war against it. Thus, for example, is the case of one who is by nature an assiduous student, because he is organically so disposed. That's just his nature. and is likewise free from conflict with regard to sexual desire by reason of his frigid nature. And similarly with the other mundane pleasures wherein he naturally lacks any feeling of enjoyment. God created him that way. He has no passions, he has no struggles, he is not drawn to anything of the physical. Hence he does not need to concentrate so much on the greatness of God, to consciously create a spirit of knowledge and fear of God in his mind, in order to guard himself against violation of the prohibitive commandments. One who has this passion, and he has this temptation, he has a major struggle in life, how does he overcome it? He has to go through the process of the Beinoni. What's the process? He has to daven strong and contemplate the greatness of God and arouse in his heart a love for Hashem and a fear of Hashem. That can give him the power to overcome his love for the physical, the animalistic soul's love and passion and temptation for the physical. This guy doesn't need this. He doesn't have that. So he doesn't have to create that counterbalance either, the love for Hashem, that powerful love for Hashem that gives him the ability to overcome. Hence, we'll read from hence. Hence, he does not need to concentrate so much on the greatness of God to consciously create a spirit of knowledge and fear of God in his mind in order to guard himself against violation of the prohibitive commandments, or to arouse the love of God in his heart to induce his attachment to him through the fulfillment of the positive commandments and the study of Torah, which balances everything else. For him suffices the hidden love that is in his heart of all Jews, in the heart of all Jews, who are called the lovers of his name. Therefore, he is in no way called one who is serving, inasmuch as this latent love is not of his making. Very interesting point. He has to arouse.
Oh, body.
He has to arouse. Here's what he's saying over there. A person that has no has a frigid nature. He's a studious person. He likes learning. He likes study. He likes things of a higher level. So I said, this is a person who is drawn after follow, the matters of the mind, wisdoms. Why it's so? So in that case, you would expect that he would learn a little Torah, read a little philosophical books of the secular nature, and so on, to keep his interest, right? To get him to learn and leave go of all secular wisdom and only be drawn to God's wisdom, that's not a natural thing for him either. His nature is to study, but he can study many different wisdoms and philosophies. What causes him to be drawn in one direction only, godly wisdom? For that, it doesn't have to have this experience of the Beinoni, this passionate love of Hashem in his heart that we described earlier. For that, for him is enough to arouse his hidden love, which is there already anyway. Just to remind himself that he's Jewish. I'm Jewish, so of course I should be engaged in the study of Torah and God's wisdom. Now, the fact that he's Jewish and he has a neshama, that hidden love in his heart, that's his credit. That's to his credit. He created that love in his heart. No, it's there from birth, by virtue of him being Jewish. So you can't consider him as even creating that. All he has to do is reveal it. For that, to reveal it, there's not a major struggle. And therefore, he's not considered an Eved Hashem. There's nowhere in his life where he's really struggling. If he had to create a love, that takes effort. That takes tremendous effort. But he doesn't have to. The only time you have to create that passionate love in your heart through contemplation and meditation is when you have the counterbalance of the passionate Yetzer Hara, which is driving you towards, which is leading you towards the very opposite of godliness. You need to fight that with a major love in your heart, passionate love in your heart for God. Okay, so but so that the Yetzer Hara is not bothering him, he doesn't have to create that passion in his heart. He's drawn naturally to it. But you can say he's drawn naturally to any kind of wisdom. So what makes him turn right instead of left, to God's wisdom instead of to other wisdoms? A little reminder that he's Jewish. All he has to do is reveal within him what's there already. And if it's there already, it's not his credit. He didn't work to create that. So how would you term such a person a Eved Hashem? He's not. He did nothing. He didn't struggle at all with anything. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You wish you were like that, huh?
I don't know, it makes me wonder why he's here.
It's a very good question. Alter Rebbe is going to say that when the prophet calls him a lo yavoda, he's not one who serves him not. It's obviously not a virtue. Alter Rebbe in chapter 15 lays down a very important truth. We're here to serve God. We're not here to cruise through life. What should such a Beinoni do? Where life is a cruise. He's on cruise control. He doesn't have to do anything. He just has to let himself be himself, right? And the Rebbe says no. You'll see soon that no, even he has to make sure that he doesn't just remain a naturally disposed Jew. He has to go beyond his nature. The Rebbe is saying something very important over here. He's fighting against institutionalized Judaism. The Judaism that says, I'll fit God into my world, which is the story of so many Jews, even very, very religious Jews. They fit God into their frame of reference. I'll explain soon. We'll see in the Alter Rebbe's words. Where are we? For him suffices the hidden love. On the right column to about 10, 12 lines from the bottom. For him suffices the hidden love that is in the heart of all Jews, who are called the lovers of his name. Therefore he is in no way called one who is serving as much, inasmuch as this latent love is not of his making, or accomplishment by any means. But it is our inheritance that has come down from the patriarchs to the whole community of Israel, as we'll discuss further in chapter 18. He didn't create this. So therefore he can't take the credit for that love. Is this understood? Okay. This is really where we got to last week. Went a few lines further, but it's more or less where we got to. Okay, so let's try to now finish this chapter. So too is one who, although by nature not an Assyrian student, now he's going to say that sometimes a person may not be born with this nature to be so involved in learning, but he made it his nature. He made it his nature. Right? How hard is that? In the beginning it's a little harder to get used to doing something you're not used to doing. But then after a while it becomes second nature. What we call second nature, teva sheni. So too is one who, although by nature not an assiduous student, has yet accustomed himself to study with great diligence, so that the habit has become second nature with him. For him too suffices the innate love unless he wishes to study more than his wont. In other words, the Rebbe is saying you can have another type of person who's not a Ovid. Till now we talked about who's the one who serves him not. The one who's born with a frigid nature, with a nature to study, is a bookworm. There's also sometimes you're not born with that, but after a while you got used to it, so it became second nature. Once you've gotten used to it, and it became second nature, this is now your nature. So again, at that point, you're no longer serving God, because now it became your second nature. Nachon? Unless he says you do what's beyond your natural disposition. Let's say the person was born with an enjoyment to learn, or someone who made it a second nature. How much is he naturally inclined to spend time learning and doing mitzvahs and so on? A certain amount. But then he reaches, that's enough, right? And he says, you know what, let me go beyond what I'm really comfortable. Beyond my comfort zone. That beyond your comfort zone puts you in a new category. You went beyond your comfort zone. In other words, you battled your own disposition. To go beyond your comfort zone means it's an effort. That effort is when you start becoming a Eved Hashem, because now it's an effort. So when you go beyond your comfort zone, that makes you an Eved Hashem. And that's what he explains now. This will explain the statement in the Gemara, in the Talmud, that one who is serving God refers to him who reviews his lesson 101 times, while one who serves him not refers to him who repeats his lesson no more than 100 times. Why is that? This sounds a little bit ridiculous. You learn 100 times, you're not serving God. You learn 101 times, that one time put you in a whole new category. Why? So he explains, this is because in those days, in the times of the Talmud, it was customary to review each lesson 100 times. As indeed, that was the custom, to learn everything. Why? Because there were no books. Everything was it was studied orally. The books were it was handwritten, everything. So there weren't that many books. It wasn't, so you had to listen to a teacher, teach it to you orally. You had to remember everything he said. There was no notes, there was no nothing. Imagine today, you read everything you'll know is from oral transmission. It's memory. It's not easy to remember things. So for that, you have to keep studying everything over and over and over. So the normal thing then was 100 times. That was normal. Once you finished 100 times you study, you went to the next thing. To learn 101 was beyond the natural. It was beyond what everyone did. So therefore, that one time transforms you and puts you in a whole new category. And he gives an example from this. As indeed illustrated in the Gemara, in the same page over there, by an example taken from the market, where donkey drivers used to hire themselves out at a rate of 10 parsons for a zuz. Whatever it's a distance, let's say 10 miles. They would take 10 miles for a zuz. But for 11 parsons, they would charge double, 2 zuzim. You may ask, why don't you just charge me 1 zuz plus a tenth of the next zuz? You're just going 10% more. But that's not how it was done. They charge you double when you went even 1 extra mile, 1 extra parson. But for 11 parsons, they charge 2 zuzim because that exceeded their customary practice. It's a whole, like I gave the example last week, you take a taxi to downtown Brooklyn, you're gonna, you'll pay $20, right? You go over the bridge, $50. You went into Manhattan, it's $50. It's another 2 miles. It's nothing. But you went over, it's a whole different category. So same thing over here, a little bit different, but same idea. In other words, the normal is 10. 11 is already a whole new thing. It's double. It's not 10% more. For the same reason, the 101st revision of their study, which is beyond the normal practice to which the student had been accustomed since childhood, is considered equivalent to all the previous 100 times put together, and even surpassing them in endurance and effort, hence entitling him to be called one who's serving God. In these next few lines, Dr. Rebbe is going to say something very important. So the same thing with the Beini. The Beini, who has his natural disposition his comfort level is a certain level, but if he goes beyond this comfort zone, that's when he becomes the Eved Hashem, because that's when he is serving. For in order to change his habitual nature, he must arouse the love of God. Why would someone go beyond his nature? Why would someone go out of his comfort zone? Because there's something that's pulling him there. There's something that he realizes or he feels that to which he's drawn, and he'll even go beyond his comfort zone, is even more important than his comfort zone. What is that? Why God? But why? Why would he feel for God more than he would feel for his own self? His comfort zone is himself, because he loves Hashem. For that, you do have to arouse a love for Hashem. And that's where you become the Eved Hashem. When you just have to reveal an innate love, an inborn love, which is there already because you're born as a Jew. That's not your doing. But in order to go out of your comfort zone, you have to already create a love for Hashem. It's the one that's not there. To do something more, that brings you into the level of Eved Hashem. And that's what he's saying. In order to change his habitual nature, he must arouse the love of God by means of meditation in his mind on the greatness of God in order to gain mastery over the nature that is in the left part of the heart. You see, you have to overpower your nature. How could you overpower your nature? To go out of your comfort zone means to go against your natural disposition, to go against your nature. How do you go against your nature? In order to gain mastery over the nature that is in the left, that you have to meditate on that which is even greater than you, which is God. So you have to already consciously create this passion and this love of Hashem in your heart. That takes effort. The bottom line is to go against your nature, that takes effort. However you get there. Usually it comes through focusing on the greatness of Hashem, which convinces you, causes you to say, you know what, he's more important than me. So I'm ready to go beyond my comfort level for him. But that takes love, that takes something more than just your natural disposition. You see, your innate love, that's your nature. That's there by birth. To go beyond your nature, beyond what's there by birth, for that you have to create something more, something deeper. For in order to change his habitual nature, he must arouse the love of God by means of meditation in his mind on the greatness of God, in order to gain mastery over the nature that is in the left part of the heart, which is full of blood of the animal soul, originating in the klippa whence comes this nature. What is he saying over here? What's your nature? Your nature is klippa. Nature comes from klippa. Klippa is the other side, the non-holy side. Because how does he define nature? Look how he defines nature. It's very important. These few lines are crucial. Go back to page 65. Fourth line from the bottom. In order, you have to meditate in your mind to create a love of Hashem in order to gain mastery over the nature that is in the left part of the heart, which is full of blood of the animal soul. What's your nature? Your animal soul, that's your nature. Originating in klippa, whence the nature whence comes of his nature. Nature is klippa. Your natural disposition, that comes from your nefesh habahamis. And the Alter Rebbe says, your comfort level, that's klippa. It's not God. The Alter Rebbe does not settle, is not happy to settle for a Yiddishkeit, for a Judaism that is natural to you. And this plagues us.
Anything that you do out of your comfort zone, even if it's not godly, will be, because sometimes we do things out of our comfort zone that is not to serve God.
Like what?
Do something for someone else.
That's serving God. That's Rabbi Yisroel. That's the love for another person. You will never go out of your comfort level for no reason. Why would you? Give me an example. Where would you go out of your comfort level? I'll work 20 hours a day. That's not out of your comfort level. You want more money.
No,
that's because you want more money.
For other people.
Yeah, but the same this person that because you said because you want to love Hashem or because you want to get more sachar, more.
No, it's not about reward. It's about.
It's not about reward.
No, it's not about reward. In other words, in the nefesh habahamis never goes out of its natural disposition. It just, why should it? Why would it? Give me an example where the nefesh habahamis, your animal soul, will go out of its comfort level.
Military action.
That's who says
And
that's
nefesh
comes?
habahama, what is the primary function of the nefesh habahama?
It's
Self-preservation.
self-centered.
Self-preservation and self-centered.
Yeah.
So now here you are,
Yeah.
and you're going to go ahead and put yourself in mortal danger, all right, to accomplish a mission.
Yeah.
So you're
That's-
going out of your comfort zone against the wishes of your nefesh habahama.
Not against
For a
your
higher
wishes of the
cause.
nefesh habahamis,
Why is that?
because you're going to preserve yourself.
No, you're not.
Oh, so I thought you said so that you're going
No,
to. Why are you doing this?
You're doing that because you have a mission to perform. You're not under attack. Let's say I have a mission to destroy a building.
Yeah.
There's a Taliban building,
Yeah.
something. I go ahead and I do this mission. I put explosives there. I put myself in danger.
Right.
I was in no danger before going on the mission. They weren't bothering me.
Right.
But I got an assignment to blow up this building.
Okay.
So I put my self-preservation on the back burner to accomplish a mission that I wanted to accomplish.
So I think that would be considered something of idealism. You're enlisted in an army to protect your country,
That's true.
or to protect, so I don't know if that's a Nefesh Bahamis act. That's probably more
It
of
is
an idealistic.
The very act of enlisting in the service in the first place, volunteer.
I would give that
It's
to
an
you.
act.
That you're probably right. That is
So-
going against your comfort level
It is,
for a
yes.
higher purpose.
It is.
But it's not the. So it's not the. So then you're going against the wishes of the Nefesh Bahamis.
You are. That's what
Okay,
I'm saying.
of
You're
course.
going out of your comfort zone.
100%. But the Nefesh Bahamis is not going against its comfort zone. That's the Nefesh Elokis doing that.
Okay.
That's
Well,
your.
then, wait. I don't think I'm understanding this concept. When you say going out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
when you say the nefesh habahama is not going out of its comfort zone,
Right.
its comfort zone is when it does its function of preserving you
Right.
and making sure that you don't die and making sure that you eat and you sleep and all this kind of stuff, and that when necessary that you dominate a situation in order to pass on your genes. There's a lot of things that it wants to do, but then there are things that run contrary to those to that impulse, to those wishes that are innate in you, and you overcome them for a reason that has nothing to do with your nefesh habahama. It has something to do with something else.
Right. I'm saying
So that's
there's
what.
no question that you can go beyond your comfort zone for something that you believe is important. The Nefesh Elokis, a Jew does that all the time, and probably a lot of good people do that all the time. They have ideals for which they're ready to give of themselves and go outside of their natural place to do good for others, to do good for the world, to do good for God, to do good for their whoever. But when you want to preserve yourself, the Nefesh Bahamis is there to preserve itself. It's very self-centered. So anything that enhances that self is what it's all about. So when it does more and more for itself. Usually you work 8 hours a day to make a certain amount of money. But if your boss told you if you work today 13 hours, you'll make double amount of money, or even not double, but you'll make more money. The Nefesh Bahamis are going to do it.
Of course.
Is that outside of itself? No, that's self-preservation. He wants more for itself.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. The Nefesh Bahamis on its own doesn't go out of it. Doesn't go out of itself. That's not the
think
job.
the
That's not the
operative word
work of the Nefesh Bahamis.
The operative word there is on its own. If not presented with
A higher
compelling
idealism.
reason,
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. The Nefesh. So now you can have a Nefesh Elokis. You can have a godly person, a person who's a frum Yid, a religious Jew, whose whole dedication to God is considered by the prophet Eloi Avodah. He has never served God. He went through 120 years of a frum life in Brooklyn or in Jerusalem or in Bnei Brak or wherever he lives, and he never went beyond his comfort zone. He fit God into his box. I'll give God, you want Shabbos, I'll give you Shabbos. It's nice, I like Shabbos. I'll study some Torah for you. It enhances my own education. I like it. He fit God into his box. This is lo yavadi. This is not a person that's serving God. This is a person that has taken God and fit him into his world. It's almost self-serving. It's better to do that than to do other things, obviously, for sure. But it's lo yavadi. That's what Alter Rebbe is saying over here. In the Bein Yitzav, in the Jew, you have a person who's lo yavadi. He fits God into his natural disposition. He knows he's Jewish. He's going to learn Torah. Of course, I'm a Jew. I'm going to learn Torah. I'm not going to just read philosophy all day. But he's fitting God into his comfort zone, into his box. It's lo yavadi. It's a person that's klipa. The Alter Rebbe is saying that is klipa. Nature is klipa. It comes from the nefesh habahamis. Comes from the side that's full of blood, on the left side of the heart. The nature is not Hashem.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say that all of us here, okay, that in this room believe in God, but everyone love Him in different level.
Yeah.
Now, 22 years ago, I didn't put feeling.
Yeah.
I started to put it 22 years ago, and I don't see any morning that I can start a day without to do it.
That's tava sheni. It became your second nature.
So now, for me, it's a natural.
That's natural. It's your comfort zone. You can't.
That's
it's
my
not.
It's
It's not only your comfort zone. You're uncomfortable
So I
not
do it-
putting it on.
So it's not a self-center too?
It's not avodah. That's not called
Yeah, but
serving
it's
God.
self-centered
That's what
now
he's saying.
because
There's a certain self. In other words, you're fitting. You've gotten comfortable with a certain level of Yiddishkeit, and that's now become your natural disposition. You're saying it yourself. That you can't imagine a day going without film. It would make you very uncomfortable. I need to put on film.
Yeah, I can't
If you
start
need to
it.
put on film, you're not serving God, you're serving yourself. It's better to do that than to do other things, obviously. But it's a lo yavode. That's what the pasuk means.
There's no
That is a
struggling
person
now.
that serves God because you're not struggling anymore. It's your nature. Nature is klipa. The Alter Rebbe say this is incredibly important line here. The Alter Rebbe is saying nature is klipa. If you're fitting God into your comfort zone, it's the world of klipa. It's not bad klipa, but it's klipa.
So basically
A second.
during the life, we grow the comfort zone more and more
And
and
that's
more.
when you find, now you have to look for something else to
Yeah,
serve
like-
Hashem.
To
Or
keep Chabad.
when you
Or
do
the-
when you put on tefillin, you do it better, beyond your comfort zone. Maybe put on tefillin with a little more kavana that's not your comfort level. The Alter Rebbe's fight is waging war against institutionalized Judaism, against comfort zone Judaism. He's saying that's not what it's all about.
So you need all
You have
the
to
time
serve God,
fighting.
not yourself. And the yourself is klipa. Yourself is your nefesh habahamis. That's klipa. It's a very important point.
So what about Sadiq that he's not struggling? That's it. It's become his comfort zone. Everything is come love Hashem. Everything is comfort zone for
Right.
him. So
There's no such thing. A person can always find an area where it's beyond his comfort zone. In other words, tzaddik is still, he has a struggle. It's not a struggle with his nefesh habahamis. He doesn't have a struggle with his negative yetzer hara. He doesn't have a yetzer hara anymore. What he does have is you can go beyond. That's what he's saying. You can learn 101 times.
The guy who's 22 years, let's say 22 years ago, he started to put on film, and every morning when he gets up, he goes, "Oh no, I've got to put on film now. Oh, what a pain."
Then he's still serving God.
That he's still serving God more than.
But it usually doesn't
Yaakov.
happen that way. It usually doesn't happen that way. When you're putting film on for 20 years, it becomes it becomes your life. It becomes your oxygen.
It's like a nature. Like
It becomes second nature. If it didn't become second nature after 20 years, you have to wonder why. There's something wrong. Why is it not becoming what's wrong with you? But at the end of the day, if it's still against your nature, your comfort level is, I'd rather go straight to work or eat breakfast or do other things, watch television in the morning, than spend a half hour or 5 minutes putting on film. It's not your comfort zone, and when you do it, you're breaking your nature. That's a Eved Hashem. That means you're going beyond your nature. The Alter Rebbe over here is laying out an extremely important point there.
This guy would be serving God in a higher way or a better manner than Yaakov, who's putting on willingly for 22 years.
I'll tell you. So you bring up a good point. What I will say about that is like this. A person who tefillin after 20 years became his comfort zone and now is ready to go to the next thing is a healthier person. A person after 20 years, he's still not comfortable with tefillin. You have to see psychologically why there's something wrong. You're right. If Yaakov got stuck with this tefillin and he's not ready, he's not going into something more beyond his comfort zone, so he's aloy avodah, he's not serving God. That person who's stuck with some issue that doesn't let him become comfortable with tefillin, and yet he's putting on tefillin, is a avid. He's serving God. But you have to figure out, why is this happening to a person who after 20 years of doing this, hasn't become natural to him. He's some psychological problem, perhaps. I don't know. But so I'm saying, I would rather be. Yes, he has to go into something more.
But I'm not struggling now to put tefillin.
So
what I'm saying is become like I feel good after that.
That's right.
It's self-centered.
Exactly. See, it's klipa. It's not klipa in the negative. The chas v'shalom tefillin is not klipa. The point is, teva is klipa. You're not avid. You're not serving anymore. 20 years ago you served. Today you're not serving anymore.
I calculate my hours.
So what you have to do is, you have to grow. You have to take on something new. You have to go out of your comfort zone. That's what the Rebbe is saying of it. It's a Yid must go out of his comfort zone. He has to be a Eivid Hashem. He has to serve God, not himself. This is extremely important. And I'm telling you that there are thousands and tens of thousands of Yidden, from Yidden, from the day they were born to the day they died, where Judaism is an institutionalized Judaism. It's a comfort level Judaism. They're fitting God into their world. You're supposed to fit yourself into God's world, not fit God into your world. This is His world, not yours. You have to go out of your comfort level, not put God into your comfort level. Again, I'm saying there's no question that to fit God into your comfort level and not something else into your comfort level is always better. I'd rather have God in my comfort zone than something else in my comfort zone, than base pleasures of the Nefesh HaBahamis in my comfort level. But it's not a Eivid Hashem. And our job is to serve God. It's not to serve self-servant, not to self-serve. So therefore, the minute you become comfortable with something, it's time to move to the next. And you have to always gauge that. You have to always gauge that.
So as a Jew, you got to do one better.
You always have to go beyond. Exactly. Today has to be better than yesterday, and tomorrow has to be better than today. And if it's the same, you're static. You become,
It's a little paradoxical that it's the process and not the goal. That's
exactly, you hit the whole Tanya. That's the whole, the nail, you hit the nail on the head of the whole Tanya. In chapter Alter, because at the end of the day, the Alter Rebbe is saying, he already said, and he's going to say it again later, you cannot become a tzaddik. So the Beini is frustrated. In chapter 26, 27, 28, 29, you must stick it out. He's going to talk to the Beini's broken heart. The Beini is basically saying what you're saying. The Alter Rebbe is saying in chapter 13, he said you're not going to be a Beini. 14. You're not going to be a tzaddik, I'm sorry. Not everyone, but also tzaddikim. God created tzaddikim, the neshamas of tzaddikim to become. Not everyone did He create to be a tzaddik. He created you to be a Beini, which means for 120 years you're going to struggle with your Nefesh HaBahamis. How promising is that? What kind of good news is that? It's like you gave the example of the war. Imagine you tell a soldier, you go to war, you're never going to win. You can always fight. You can never win the war, but you'll always fight. Thank you very much. Who wants to go to such a war? Who would want to go to a war where you can never win? That's a terrible war to fight. That's what we got stuck in. That was Vietnam, right? We got out of there because you can't win, right? I don't know if you can't. If you could, I'm not getting into that.
Yeah.
But the point is, you saw it as a endless. So we walked away. No one stays there for 120 years battling. Over here, Hashem put us into a war and He's telling us you're never going to win. So the Alter Rebbe in the later chapter is going to say the process is the victory. The very process is the victory. You won this fight today. That's a victory. Every time you won your Nefesh HaBahamis, you won. Tomorrow he picks up his head again, win him again. And the next day, again and again and again, 100 times a day, 500 times a day. It's the process that gives God the ultimate pleasure. He loves a battle, and when you win a battle. Individual battles. So the Beinoni is the ultimate goal of this world. Between me and you, the Beinoni is the ultimate hero of the Tanya, of Torah, of mitzvahs, of Judaism. The person that constantly struggles. But a person that says, I fit God into my world, into my comfort level, I boxed him into my world. It's better than sinning, but you're not an Eved Hashem. And that, now the Rebbe's Tanya is Klippa. That's Klippa. Teva is Klippa. Nature is Klippa. That God created you with a certain nature, He wants you to overcome, to get out of that nature. That's the ultimate goal.
When you think about it, I never thought about it before this was formulated in my mind, though it seems that this is so contrary to the world. It's otherworldly.
It's
and
absolutely.
Everything we do, except that, is goal-oriented. Our process is only a means to an end. Here, the end is not so important, it's the means that count.
That's
Which
exactly
is
right.
not of this world. That's a completely
It's not only
different
that,
universe, you
but
know.
the fact that the Alter Rebbe is saying, and we're going to conclude this and we'll finish today, we're running late. The fact that Alter Rebbe says, comfort level Judaism is out in the world of Chassidus, of Tanya. He does not, he's waged, he proclaimed, he's going to war against such Judaism. He says that's not what Judaism is about. It's not only the process is what counts. He says if you won the war, if you didn't win the war, if you stop battling, it's not what it's about. You're right. It's the process that counts. What's the process? The battle. And the minute you found your comfort level in Judaism, you walked away from God. You walked away from God. You walked into yourself.
I was going to say in response to Marty, I think if you get the goal, you're done. Don't you say?
Well, the tzaddik gets there. So the tzaddik has his own. In other words, it's nice to become a tzaddik, but not everyone could. It's not if you get to the goal, you're done. You can't get to the goal. That's what he's saying. You're not getting to the goal.
That moves away from you as you approach it.
See,
which
yeah,
is very
exactly.
funny, you know?
See, in other words, you have to stop looking to what's your goal. That's the question. You have to redefine the goal.
I meant the goal that your life
You no longer
your-
struggle.
or no, that your life might be like you're done in this physical world.
Oh, you mean at 120?
Well, like a person finishes what they needed to struggle and overcome, so that they're.
It never does. You never do. That's what Alter Rebbe is saying. You'll never finish struggling. A Beinoni never finishes to struggle. The minute he feels that he's no longer struggling, he's not anymore a Eved Hashem. He didn't become a tzaddik. A tzaddik means you despise evil. Unless you became a tzaddik, most people don't become tzaddikim. So the minute you stopped fighting because you became used, this became your comfort, this became your second nature, the Alter Rebbe is saying, don't stop, move on to beyond your comfort level. Never a day should go by where you're in your comfort level. That's Klippa. It's a revolutionary idea if you think about it. Jews never thought in these terms.
It's all life struggle.
That's why Tanya is such a difficult book to learn. It's so, the demand is almost, like you're saying, it's otherworldly. It's not realistic. A normal person can't go to a war knowing you'll never win it. So he's saying you have to redefine the goal. The goal is today. It's not tomorrow. The goal is today. Your Yitzhahara is bothering you. Knock him down today. That's the goal. Tomorrow's a new Yitzhahara. The goal will be to knock that Yitzhahara. It's not only tomorrow. It's every 5 seconds. It's a constant struggle. And the struggle is what God loves. He loves the struggle. And when you overcome the struggle, obviously. Let's just finish it up. Second line on the left column on 67. This is a perfect service for a Beinoni. He says this is a perfect service. The fact that you're struggling and you're going out of your comfort zone, that's a perfect service. Or, he must awaken the hidden love in his heart to control through it the nature that is in the left part, for this too is called service. The waging of war against his nature and inclination by means of exciting the love that is hidden in his heart. However, if he wages no war at all, the said love is in itself can in no way be credited to his service. That means sometimes you have to create a passionate love in your heart to overcome your nature. Sometimes, as we'll say in chapter 18, the hidden love is enough to overcome your nature. Either way, we'll talk about that. But if you're not fighting against your nature, you're not serving God. So don't try to fit God into your comfort level. Yes, try to take a particular mitzvah and make it second nature. And when that happens, take the next mitzvah. See, that's what I'm saying.
You do it for him, not for you.
That's it. That's the whole thing. You have to see. It should be God-oriented, not self-oriented. If this became your second nature, it's self-oriented. You're not an Eved Hashem. You're Eved Yasatzma. You're serving yourself. So when you ask me, the person that after 20 years is still struggling with his tefillin, that's not good. It's not a healthy situation. Why is he not making this second nature? That's a problem. He made that second nature. He went on to the next mitzvah. The person got stuck with one mitzvah for 50 years. That's a struggle for him. Nebuch. So you have to graduate struggles. The struggles should become about different things. You don't want to struggle for 50 years at the same struggle. You want to move beyond that struggle to something more sophisticated. Imagine a guy that's 60 years old is still struggling with the same struggle a guy at 20. That's a pitiful situation. When you're 20, you have certain struggles. You move on. If tefillin is our struggle for 70, 80 years, it's a problem. So it's not the struggle that you're going to graduate. It's the type of struggle. An 18-year-old is struggling with one kind of Yetzer Hara. A 38-year-old is struggling with another kind of Yetzer Hara. But if at 38 you're still struggling with the 18-year-old Yetzer Hara, there's something wrong. But the minute you say, I finished struggling with the Yetzer Hara of 18 and therefore I'm now on cruise control, that's bad. Because trust me, there's a Yetzer Hara of a 38-year-old. And you're not contending with it, you're a problem. That's a problem. So the Beinoni that's not struggling, and he's doing everything by nature, he stops at 100 times and never goes to the 101. Alei Avodah, he's not serving God. And that's not what Judaism is about. That's Klippa. Teva is Klippa, nature is Klippa. And that was the Aveda of Chassidus. Chassidim always went and tried their hardest to go beyond their nature. That was the whole effort of a chassid. When you go out of your nature, you're in Hashem's world. You stay in your own nature, you're in your world. And that's not what Judaism is about. Va'avadetem es Hashem. So you have to serve Hashem. That's the mitzvah. That's Judaism. I have my time that I study. I have my time that I read my books, and I have the time that I play golf, and I have my time that I do this. It's all institutionalized. Isn't it? That's Klippa. I'll tell you a story and with this will conclude. I heard this from Rabbi Manis Friedman. So in Beis Chana, he had an institution for women, and a school or whatever, seminary. So a lot of girls and women that didn't grow up in Judaism used to come. So they would learn, study, take on a mitzvah, take on another mitzvah, Shabbos, whatever it is. So there was one woman that took on Shabbos. And she loved it. She loved it. She saw how beautiful it is, lighting candles and having a meal with family. And the whole thing was just a beautiful thing. And she took it upon. She really embraced it. And she loved it. She couldn't wait for Shabbos. About a year later, she calls up Rabbi Friedman and says, Rabbi Friedman, I have a real problem. What's the problem? He says, I don't enjoy Shabbos anymore. I don't know, I don't enjoy it that much anymore. I used to look forward for it. I used to love it. But today it's a drag on me. Rabbi Friedman tells her, Mazel Tov. That's wonderful. Now you're serving Shabbos. Now your Shabbos is serving. Now you're serving Hashem. Till now you served yourself. Mazel tov. Say l'chaim. That's great. In other words, what's not great about it is you want to have where a mitzvah becomes second nature, and then you go to the next. Rabbi Frieden was just trying to tell her, you're serving God, what's wrong with that? That's good news, that's not bad. It's not, you don't like, it's not your comfort level. That's what Judaism is, to go beyond your comfort level. You were trying to fit it into your comfort level, and it's not in your comfort level. Wonderful. You understand, I'm still not getting anywhere. Then you have to see why. Maybe learn a little more about Shabbos. Try to, because you want to always graduate. You want to make God your second nature, and then go to the next level. There's always going to be something that's beyond your nature. That's the point. And if you stop serving, that's bad. That's klipa. And now have yourself a wonderful week.
Thank you very much.